MzeroA Nation, happy Saturday. Jason here. It is Season 2, Episode 5 of Inflight Coffee. Today, we're doing some VFR flight planning live. Welcome to Inflight Coffee. Welcome to Inflight Coffee is right. So happy, so blessed to be with you all on a gorgeous Saturday afternoon. We're going to be looking at some VFR flight planning. We're going to be doing it all live. I just saw a few of you over on Instagram like Sim Crash Mike and a few others over on Instagram as well. Now we're here on Facebook, on YouTube, and hoping to bring just a little bit of aviation wisdom to you all today, all while making a cup of coffee. So thankful, so excited to be with you all on this fine afternoon. Pete, good to see you. Ed, Nat, Telvin, great to see you. David said, it's time for church. Preach, Jason. Let the Lord speak through me then, right? Chris, good to see you as well. I see Hello MzeroA family. Sometimes they come up as Facebook user. Magda, I haven't figured that out. Sometimes when, oh, that's Magda doing that. Sometimes if you do it from a group, no, you're doing the main page? Huh, that's strange. I don't know why it does that, but we're making some coffee. If you're in the group, because so if you're posting a comment in the MzeroA Nation, it's technically a private group, so I think that's why it comes up Facebook user. It's a privacy issue. So if you want me to see your name, switch over to the main MzeroA page. If you want to remain anonymous, the group's a great place to do it. Until I go in the group and see your comment. We're making some coffee here today, giving some more shout outs to Daniel, Enoch, Ron from Denver. Ron, how was the storm, all the snow? Was it like what the news said? All the news talked about was like from Portland to Colorado, all the craziness over there. So curious as to how you fared with such there. We're making some great coffee. Then we're going to talk about some VFR flight planning. We're going to do it all live. So I'm going to get the iPad out. If you've never watched In-Flight Coffee before and you're wondering why is Jason Schappert making a cup of coffee live on Facebook and YouTube? Well, coffee is a passion of Magda and I. So we're making a cup of coffee, and it helps the conversation flow sometimes as well with that. Alexander, about to take my check ride from Private Pilot. Thank you for all the help on the videos. Well, listen, I'm going to speak it into existence, my friend. Congratulations on being a private pilot. Congratulations on passing that check ride. My buddy Chris, good to see you. Kudos to the MzeroA team, passed commercial check ride using MzeroA almost exclusively. Congrats, Chris, one of our amazing lifetime members as well. So thanks for Chris. Good to see you. Chris, you had some crazy weather and snow, though, up in Northern California as well, didn't you? Enoch, night rating test, awesome. Congratulations. Tyler from Michigan. Hey, speaking of that, you know the drill. I need to know where you're watching from, and I need to know how is the weather using only emojis, only emojis. Hunter, first solo student this week. That is super exciting. Hunter, were you nervous? I was, for my first student that I soloed as a CFI, I was more nervous than the student was. That says something right there. Anyways, let's make a cup of coffee here. We're gonna do this. Doug in Oklahoma. Oh, clear prop. Could have had a prop strike against something. Wow, Mackie gave me a look like you didn't say clear prop. The things you forget sometimes. Jonathan Vargas, so there's MzeroA hat in Kissimmee. Jonathan Vargas, I know I will see you at Sun and Fun. Who else? Type in me in the chat. Am I going to see at Sun and Fun as well in Lakeland? It's at the end of this month, Magda. Are you ready for that? It's 3 weeks away. It's 3 weeks away. That's getting a little bit crazy here as well. So we'll be at same spot we've been like the past 12 years. Hangar D, booth 92. So we ordered 300 some odd books yesterday. All that's coming into Sun and Fun. We're going to see Eric Pittman there, Magda. I mean, that makes the trip, our long trip to Lakeland, just makes it so much worth it for us with that. Kashav, going to see you. Awesome. Brandon in Madison, Wisconsin. We may not see Brandon at Sun and Fun, but if he's in Madison, we'll see him in Oshkosh. I'm watching this too. Magda's making me look like, pay attention to your coffee. I'm a good multitasker. Okay. Season, great to see you. Season, you know this. How does Jason Schappert make coffee? With honey. Americano with honey. FMY, Ethan, Page Field, good little airport. Say hi to Jeff and Chris if you're over at, if you ever go over to Paragon and see those guys. Cat Manalo, great to see you. S. McGrath was the username. He's going to try to get to Sun Fun. All this, it's so cold here. It's like 70 degrees outside. All this honey has become gelatinous. And it's 68 degrees outside, by the way, everybody. I know it's pretty cold, and it's so cold. Oh, 68 degrees in the studio, Magda said. This is today's word of the day is gelatinous. Jason's honey is gelatinous. We could do a grammar lesson too. Not a spelling lesson though. All right. Snow in East Berlin, says Glenn Snow. Oh no, Glenn Snow is in East Berlin and it's cool there. I misread it, Glenn. I saw snow and I thought snow, but Snow is Glenn's last name. Should have known better with that. All right. Who else is out there? Sarah watching from Italy. And you know, Sarah, Magda is basically your neighbor from Mallorca. Did you know that? I mean, kind of like a neighbor, kind of a distant neighbor. There's like Corsica in the way and some other places. I'm trying to think of my geographical map. All right, we've got an amazing cup of coffee here. We have what I hope you will find to be a informative talk that we're going to have today. And you all know Robin knows this. The whole Linfield family knows this, that the goal of every video, the goal of every live stream is to do what? It's to save just one life. And that's my goal today. And it's my prayer today. You know, you're saying we're just sharing flight plan stuff. Yes, but I'm hoping there's some wisdom in here that does exactly just that. You know, MzeroA, as Chris will tell you, just passed a commercial check ride. Chris will tell you, MzeroA is not just like, hey, Chris, good job, you passed your check ride, good luck, you know, we're all counting on you, kind of thing. This is a family. I still think back to what Hunter said many, many months ago, maybe it's been a year now. It's the family she didn't know she needed until you got involved with it. I bet Eric Pittman and Robin and Bill and many others can attest to that as well. So if this is your first time, welcome to the family. Many names are familiar to me on this screen. When I'm breaking eye contact with you, I'm looking at Chris Hyde and Kevin Cook and everybody else as well. So this is interactive, so feel free to put your comments in there. And you can see them on the screen over here. Oh, over here. There they are, right there. It's opposite. You know, I gotta get used to that. It's like flying an airplane. All right, let's build some foundation. Then we're gonna head over to the iPad, do a little bit of flight planning. I have my 2023 FAR aim here, and that is the hymnal I will be reading from here today. We're gonna head over to 91-103 to start our flight plan discussion, which is required pre-flight action. Don't get too excited. I know we're starting off with regulations, but I promise you we'll go from regulations and we're gonna give this some real world applicability. If my ground school members out there know, I've done an entire 2-hour webinar on 91-103. I'm going to talk about 91-103 for 5 minutes here, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. All right. 91-103 is required pre-flight action. It's the things you must be doing as pilot in command. Where are my pilot in commands at? Type in me in the chat. It's the things you must be doing, pilots in command, before each and every flight. 91-103 applies to you, okay? Now, we give you a clever little acronym to remember your 91-103. Look at all my me's, right? The acronym is NW, think Northwest. Look at that, Pete, I love it. Northwest Craft. Craft with a K, craft like the macaroni and cheese. Who doesn't love macaroni and cheese, right? Regardless of the brand. Northwest Craft like the macaroni and cheese. I'll go through it quickly here, then I'll read the regulations, share with you how each of these apply. The N is for NOTAMs. Grab a screenshot of this. The N is for NOTAMs. You must become familiar with all available NOTAMs. The W is for weather. You think, of course I'm going to look at the weather. I'm going to share with you how the FAA believes you need to look at the weather and how we, as the pilot in command, all those me's that just typed in the chat, need to go and look at weather. The K is for a weird one. It's for something called known ATC delays. Known ATC delays. Excuse me, just one second. I'm better now. I'm still getting over I'm healed. I'm healed. I apologize. I rebuke those previous words. I am healed. But I'm healed. We'll leave it at that. The K is for known ATC delays. Known ATC delays are a funny thing. You probably haven't dealt with them a lot. A known ATC delay is, hey, it's IFR at JFK Airport right now. There's 10 in the holding pattern, all waiting to shoot the ILS for this particular runway. You're going to be number 11 in the holding pattern. There is a known delay. Many times, if you're in the airline industry, they will hold you on the ground. It's called a ground stop. And you say, but wait, the weather is beautiful here in South Florida. Yeah, but it's crummy in JFK right now, and you're just going to be burning fuel and everything else. They'll hold you on the ground at your departure airport because the weather's bad where you're going, because there is a known ATC delay. You need to become aware of those. The R is our runway lengths. The A is our alternates available. Hold on that one for a bit. F is fuel required. T is takeoff and landing distances. Let me grab a sip of coffee, and then we're going to read from 91-103, our hymnal. All right, here's what it reads. Each pilot in command shall, say that's me, each pilot in command, that's you, shall, before beginning a flight, become familiar with all available information concerning that flight, period. Where are my lawyers? Are any lawyers watching? Is that not you know, I'm always fascinated by contract law, and this is nothing more than a big contract, right? You and I agree to fly by this contract when we become a private pilot. Well, in that contract that you signed, when you signed the back of your certificate with Orville and Wilbur on it, you agreed to all of this, is what you're saying here, and you sign that you will become familiar with all available information concerning that flight. That's a lot, right? That's lawyer speak for saying, you know, covering our booties with that one. This information must include. Now, don't get confused here. People misappropriate and misteach this paragraph A of 91-103 often, and it's no fault. So flight instructors, listen to this one to make sure you're teaching it appropriately. It says for a flight under IFR, and most VFR pilots tune out when someone says for flights under IFR, okay, it doesn't apply to me, and they go to the next paragraph. But wait just a second. For a flight under IFR or a flight not in the vicinity of an airport. My ground school members know that we learned many weeks ago the definition of a vicinity, like thunderstorms in the vicinity. The vicinity is an area defined as 5 to 10 miles is the definition of a vicinity. So if you plan on venturing 5 miles, we'll say as the minimum, or more away from your airport. You were there, Tyler, when we shared it. 5 miles or more away from the airport, this applies to you, even if you're VFR. So a flight under IFR or a flight not in the vicinity of the airport, you must become familiar with weather reports, forecasts, fuel requirements, and listen to this one, Eric Pittman, alternatives available if the planned flight cannot be completed. And all this time you've been taught, when you fill out that flight plan form and you get to box number, 14, I think it is, that says alternates. And your instructor always said, oh, that's IFR only. You don't need an alternate VFR flight. They're not wrong. You don't need to legally file an alternate for VFR. In fact, there's certain instances in IFR flying when the weather's good enough that an alternate is not required. There are filing requirements from when an alternate is required, but then there's the good contract of 91-103 that says anytime you basically leave the traffic pattern, you need to just become familiar with alternates that are available to you. And what does it mean to become familiar with it? Do you know the NOTAMs at that airport? Do you know the runway lengths and layouts? Do you know the weather at that airport? Do you have the frequencies ready? You know, one thing I did early on with my students when I was really training a lot is we had a sheet in the airplane that I laminated, and it was every airport within 25 nautical miles. I was teaching out of Ocala at the time. Every airport within 25 nautical mile radius with its identifier, its frequency, whether it's a tower, a CTAF, and then ASOS, AWOS, ATIS, in its runway orientation. Every airport. So no one could ever say I'm not familiar with alternates available if I leave Ocala, go to the practice area, and come back and something happened. Because think about it this way, you may take off, You know, Gabby, you may take off on a beautiful, clear day and go, what could go wrong? Why do I need an alternate? And go to come back to your home airport and someone had a gear up landing. Thankfully, no one's hurt, but there's a disabled aircraft on the one and only runway and you're not landing there now. You need to deviate. You need to divert. And you need to be familiar with where you're diverting to. I'll give an example that I promise we'll get to the iPad here. I'm putting the book away. I'm putting the FARM away. Every year this happens. Every year we fly to Oshkosh. And every year I'm always amazed by the time we switch over, maybe listening to Approach, Milwaukee Approach, somewhere in that realm, you'll hear someone, hey, Oshkosh is closed. There was a gear up or there was a ground loop or just a minor little incident. No one's hurt, but there's some bent metal on the runway. They're not taking landings anymore. And now you divert 100 different aircraft and they're all converging for the same diversion airports. I will never forget, there was a gentleman, we were holding around the lakes. There's Rush Lake, there's Green Lake. We're holding around the lakes. And this gentleman, you're not supposed to talk, you're supposed to only listen. And he called up and says, hey, how many more turns? I'm minimum fuel. He said, listen, you need to divert. We suggest the Fond du Lac Airport. And I'll never forget, this gentleman said, what's Fond du Lac? Where's Fond du Lac? First off, you overflew it on the way here. It's to the south. You came probably from the south. You overflew it on the way up here. And you pushed it so far that you're now minimum fuel and you're not familiar with, it's not just the airports around where you left, it's where you're going to. Are you familiar, using Oshkosh as an example, are you familiar with the Appleton Airport? Are you familiar with the Fond du Lac Airport? Are you familiar even south, some of the Chicago, Chicago Exec Pewaukee Airport? Are you familiar with these airports in the area? Because you very well may be making a diversion or stopping off early to grab fuel, as Matt and I always do. We always stop like in Gary or somewhere just south, grab a ton of fuel. So we show up to Oshkosh with a ton of fuel so we can hold for days. You know, it's a pun, but you know what I mean. So we can do that. Always have a backup plan. So let's grab a sip of coffee. And actually I want to talk about Kyle's comment, then I'll go to the iPad. Kyle said, what about the nearest button? Yeah, I flew with a gentleman on Wednesday, and you know what he did? And I'm going to start adopting this and teaching this. I thought it was so profound. He tuned the MFD on the G1000 to the nearest part of the flight plan. And did you know the G1000 will always just draw an arrow to the nearest airport? And as that changes, okay, now you're further from this one, you're close to this one. Now, with some exceptions, it shows like heliports and some other things that won't apply to you, but it's always showing you the nearest airport. It was just always up on the screen. I thought, what a good idea. Here we are at 8,000 feet in a great little airplane. Thinking that this is a guy who's thinking, it's something I'm going to adopt. Anyways, Magdala, do you still have the iPad by chance? She does. Let's head over to the iPad quickly here. Let me clear out that last Ocala to Naples route. And we are going to do a little bit of flight planning over on the iPad. But first and foremost, I am a little bit weird. I want to go find some weather. Oh, I didn't have to go very far to find some weather, did I? All right. Is there any other weather I should be aware of, though? I haven't been checking all the weather. Is this the nasty guy that gave all that snow? I'm just curious. All right. We're going to use, we've got clearly, this is either a squall line or this is some frontal activity. They did talk about some cold weather coming. So we're going to look at this. We're going to use this frontal line as a great example here. All right. So let's go ahead and let's build a flight here together. And just to make it easy, I'm going to go from Tallahassee. Let's say Eric Pittman, he moved back to Florida because he became governor. And he's in Tallahassee, Governor Pittman, and he called me and said, Jason, I want to come down. I want to see Rex Air down in Naples. I want to fly down to Naples. So we are going to do that. We're going to go pick up Governor Pittman in Tallahassee, or we're leaving Tallahassee. So let's work on this flight here together. We're going to go KTLH. We're going to try to do this VFR. We're going to Naples, which oddly enough is APF. APF, for your fun fact of the day, stands for alternate page field. That's where we got that from. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this in 2-3 Mike Zulu. As you see here, We're going to go VFR. So let's choose a VFR altitude. And during my initial phase here, I'm not looking at weather or anything like this. We're just flying. What's the governor's plane? If the president's plane is Air Force One, what's the Florida governor? What would 23 Mike Zulu be called? We'll just call it Pittman 1. We're going to pick a VFR altitude here, and let's just say we're going to go 7,500. Again, we're not looking at weather or anything like this. We're just trying to look at our route. In fact, I'm going to even turn weather off for now, just so we don't get confused here. And we're going to look at our route, and in-flight coffee members, looking at our route, this far zoomed out, do you see any problems? And if so, here, let me move this over so Magda can put the chat back up. Magda, will you put the chat back up? Because I want to see if everyone's in agreement on this. Who sees problems just right here for a VFR flight? Anybody have any issues with the route from this far zoomed out? Will the governor be in danger at any point? Yeah, Sim Crash Mike says, we got some flight over water. Brian says it's Florida 1. All right, 23 Mike Zulu is Florida 1. I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll find out. Yeah, I am not crazy about flying over this much water either. In fact, let me zoom in for you here. Do you see this here? This is our, we can take that chat down now too, Magda, just so they can see the full screen. Thank you. This is our international border. This is the ADIS, Air Defense Identification Zone. All right? I'm getting awfully close to it along some of this routing, as you see here. That might have to be a DVFR flight plan if we think that. Now, let me ask you something else here. What's my furthest distance from land? Probably right about here, let's say. I am 32 miles from shore. And I don't know how familiar you are with between Cedar Key and Crystal River, Florida, but I'd hardly call this a shore. If you've flown over this, there's no beach here. This is just swampland at this point. I mean, I know Coach Ray's not here because he's with his wife this week doing a marriage retreat, but he's quite a swimmer. He does Ironmans. I know some of you others out there do Ironmans. I don't know about swimming 34 nautical miles. Anybody think they can swim 34 nautical miles? And I'll tell you, I don't know how much you know about the Gulf of Mexico, but there's some animals in the Gulf of Mexico. I thought the other day, did you see about a month ago, a guy fell off, or he jumped off, he was intoxicated, jumped off a Carnival cruise ship between Cozumel and I think like Tampa, middle of Gulf of Mexico at night, and lived. And I just thought, in the middle of Gulf of Mexico at night, I don't have many fears, but that would be a fear of mine. Can I tread water that long? And what's beneath me? That scares me a little bit. So by the way, we're doing this, and I see Twin Comanche Pilot said, yeah, I've done that route, but I'm in a twin. In a twin, I don't have a problem with this. But in 23 Mike Zulu, a single engine airplane, I have a problem with this. If my engine quits, you are swimming. And I'm a good swimmer, but not a 34 nautical mile swimmer. And by the way, this is now beyond power off gliding distance. So I need to legally carry flotation devices for this. So you know what? Let's look. Our current route, do you see in the bottom left-hand corner where it says distance of this box that just pops down, the bottom left corner of the box? It's 288 miles. Can I show you something? Let's do this. Let's be as bold as to say, you know what, I'm going to go all the way to Ocala. Like, I'm going to go well inshore just to be safe. I'm going to go all the way to Ocala. And I could cut this in tighter. I could have said, you know, I'm going to go to Crystal River right here. But let's just say I'm going to go to Ocala because there's a nice pretty VOR there I can track if I get in a jam. And then I'm going to head down to Naples. It was 288 nautical miles. It's now 315. Okay, are we breaking the bank by any means to go, you know, 20, 30 miles out of our way to have a safer flight? You see, you need to be thinking about your routes like this. Too often we plan, you know, A to B, straight line, but you forget about water. You forget about airspace, by the way. Now let's look at this. We've got Tampa's Class Bravo here. Now I believe by going Ocala to Naples now, we're gonna miss a lot of that Bravo. Can you see this Bravo here? I'll draw it with blue. I'll highlight this Bravo. right here. Now we do have the mode C veil, but that's not a problem, right? We'll have no problem with that. But you need to be mindful of the airspace you're flying through. If I go back to our original flight plan and I drag out and I delete Ocala from here, not only are we going to be blazing across the ocean, but we're going to be needing to get some Class Bravo clearance on top of this. Do you see, things start to compound in our VFR flight planning. Well, it's over water, and then I need to get cleared to the Bravo, and then I need this, and then there's weather. And the chain of events, the links in that chain start to build. It's so much easier. Let's go back and let's just rubber band, as we call it. Let's rubber band back on over and let's do Ocala. So let me get that programmed up there for you. Now, let's go back to the iPad here real quick. If we look at this here, my next step is to look at any airspace that I need to contend with here. We're going to leave Tallahassee. Now, Tallahassee is a Class Charlie airport. I know that based on the solid magenta line. A Class Charlie airport, which means we'll get VFR flight following on the way out of here. So we're going to fly this, and I'm going to start looking for where are my backups, where are my diversion airports, where am I going to go if I get into a jam, right? Well, I've got, okay, there's Perry Foley, I'm going to pass. There's really not a whole lot out this way. Yeah, there's Cross City, but you've got some gaps of, you've got some 30 some odd mile gaps between airports. Okay, so cut that in half, 15 miles kind of to the halfway point where it's, do I continue on? I thought I had to sneeze for a second, sorry. Or do I turn around, or do I keep on going from there? This is a private airport, White Farms, but it's paved, still a good option to use. Williston, Ocala. Then we get into some terrain that we're familiar with, and we've got a lot of airports we can negotiate here. I didn't see any restricted airspace. There was some out here, some MOAs. This, by the way, let me show you this. They say a controlled firing area is not depicted, but this here is actually a controlled firing area. Let me show it to you this way. We literally shoot missiles across the state. You see it here? I'll continue it here. It goes this way and flows out this way. It goes this way and flows out that way. That's a controlled firing area. And then if you zoom in on it, they actually show you the altitudes from 3,000 to 5,000 feet. We're shooting missiles from the Gulf to the Atlantic or the Atlantic to the Gulf. So just something good to be mindful of in our traversing the controlled firing area, which are normally not depicted. That's one of the few ones that I know that's actually depicted. Okay, so we've got our route here. Life's looking good, but I have yet to look at weather. And if you are hopping on here, maybe you're a hair bit late. We chose this because we look and ba-boom, we've got some weather that we are contending with. Let me animate it here. I'm gonna grab a sip of coffee. You can see how it's moving across. And ForeFlight, by the way, recently updated its radar. You see how it's moving across? You can see our arrows shown here. We can do a lowest tilt. We'll see if we'll get that to load here in a second. Does anybody know the difference, if I can get that to load, between a composite radar and a lowest tilt? Oh, this one's discontinued. That layer's still discontinued on that one, so that's not going to show it. Never mind on that one. We'll stick with our composite radar here. Lowest tilt will show you participation that's actually making it to the ground, is what I was looking for. Fascinating how this front is moving this direction though, right? So let's go ahead, let's work through this here together, and let's see what's actually happening. Now we can go through and we can get an actual briefing, and we will do and get an actual briefing, but we want to look and show what this weather is actually doing. So I want you to come with me to the bottom of my iPad screen here, and we're going to go to imagery. And from imagery, once this all loads, we're going to look at our prog charts. And I'm going to click on the latest surface analysis. And you can see exactly what we spoke about here. This cold front that's bringing some weather here. Now, how do I know if this is a strong cold front? I look at the length of this cold front. You see, like this guy here. Come on, zoom. This guy here. Look, there's even breakups in the blue line here. Just not a very, I mean, it's still a front. It's still pushing some junk. Who's in northern Georgia right now? There's probably just some junk hanging around in northern Georgia, Atlanta area, if I had to guess right now. But it's not super strong. This guy that's spanning from, Mexico as a stationary front all the way on up to, I would call this the nucleus, the hub of it way up here, is Ron Gray out there or John Verselli or any of my New England people. You're dealing with some junk here right now. You've got, and this is even starting to swirl. Remember, a low pressure system is nothing more than a hurricane in a way. A hurricane is a low pressure system, essentially. So see how these winds are working and rotating through. I bet if you went through this, Tyler, you said you went through this and some others, I bet you had some nasty, nasty winds kind of going through, and you're just starting to get through kind of some cold stuff and everything else that's dealing with that right now. And by the way, there's another one coming behind it. I don't know which one of these guys is the one that put so much snow over Portland and over Denver and all that, but you got another thing coming, a big boy, and I hate to break it to you, but look at this up here. So let's build through this quickly here. This is just the latest surface analysis. Let me advance forward right now. And by the way, Dr. Bill, yeah, if you're in Virginia, you're dealing with this guy. Oh, hey, real quick, who knows what this is, right? Do you see that right there? The little bit right there? Who knows what that is? As we advance through, let's see what that builds into. Anyways, we'll go next. All right, so our Florida cold front, still pushing through the state. You can see the green, by the way. You can zoom into your legend here. Light green showing a chance, dark green showing likely for precipitation, as you can see there. This guy here is losing a little bit of his shape. A front is kind of like a spine in a way. When you start getting a lot of these curves in here, you lose a lot of the leverage. But when you have a curve like this is going to be a strong little front here. Your spine has one good curve to it, right? Like a suspension bridge, kind of like this here. By the way, what I was asking that Hunter and a few others chimed in on, an occluded front. That's the beginning of an occluded front. Dr. Bill, you had one over here for a bit. It's pushed off and just joined the cold front now. This guy's losing a little bit of steam. This guy is just bringing the heat. Not literally, it's going to be very cold. By bringing the heat, I mean it's packing a punch. 12 hours from now, continuing to push through. 18 hours from now, hey, this cold front's dying out a little bit here. This guy doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. He's a stationary front here. He's a warm front here. He is a cold front here, and there's the tiniest bit of an occluded front at the northern bit either. Big front, but when you have a big front that doesn't know what it wants to be when it grows up, it's going to bring crummy weather. It usually ends up being a stationary front that hangs out. What will happen is, let me show you here, what will happen is if this guy over here can get his act together, and it looks like actually this guy is pushing him out of the way, somebody's going to win this battle and keep pushing this thing across the state, the country. Give me 1 second. I got another cough here. Good. I promise I'm healed. All right, sip of coffee. All right, let's jump ahead here. The 24-hour, not a whole lot's changed. The 30-hour, look at this guy, just kind of hanging out, really slowing down. I wonder if South Florida is going to get any of this junk. 36 hours, he's still hanging out in Florida. This guy still doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up, and this junk just keeps on moving. It is still ski season out west, isn't it? 48 hours. This is interesting. What is this, MzeroA Nation? What on earth is this thing? It's like a warm front that they changed the colors of and tightened up the semicircles and mixed it up. What on earth is this thing here? Does anybody know? Put it in the chat here. Now, while we're discovering what that is, New England, you got some better weather kind of coming your way and hanging out. Maryland, D.C. area, you still got this trough hanging out, so not quite just yet. And boy, the East Coast is still really, I'm sorry, the West Coast is still kind of nasty there. I know we're looking at Florida and everything else, but you can see, you can't help but look at this. I mean, it is going Northern California. I know Portland just got blasted with snow. I think it was a record, or tied a record, I believe. So now, the question I asked was, what is this guy? Not to be confused with this guy over here. This guy is a trough. What is a trough, right? Animals eat out of a trough. It is a low area. It is an area of low pressure. This, on the other hand, is a dry line. It is a dry line. What does a dry line actually mean? Well, it means exactly that. Where is the moisture in a dry line? The moisture on a dry line is on the semicircle side. It is dry back behind it. So although we have a low and a cold front and a bunch of junk here, it may not be presenting a lot of precipitation because the moisture is literally not there. You're going to get still the nasty winds and the nasty effects of it, but you may not get the precipitation from this dry line. Let's see what happens here. All right, this dry line's kind of fizzling out here, moving its way on down. Florida ends up getting a little bit of a stationary front here hanging out. That's a little bit interesting. Warm front to a stationary front. And then we move into our 3-day. Our 3-day, we lose all the color and we just see the frontal activity. But by the way, where did that guy just go in Florida? He's there on the 60-hour, stationary front, go to the 3-day, this high pressure moved in and pushed this guy out over the Bahamas. And that the same guy that brought all that nastiness across Kentucky and New England and everything else just is going to dissipate out in 3 days out over the Bahamas. But look, the big brother that we were speaking about that was up in Canada 3 days ago is coming. And there's already a trough of low pressure. That dry line is just getting moisturized. Is that the right word to use? We are moisturizing the dry line. And he is dying out over there too as the next cold front passes through. Why do I show you all this? And I don't mean to be dwelling on West Coast weather when we're trying to plan this flight. I show all this to show you my thought process behind how we actually look at weather. Now we're going to take it a step further here. And if we could take the iPad off the screen just for 1 second, Magda, I need to get something teed up for everybody here. We're going to go ahead and we are actually going to brief this. And I'm going to send this to the flight. It's going to take a second to load the briefing here. We're going to get this briefing loaded. When that loads, Magda, we can cut back to the iPad, but we'll just give it a second. Vito asked, a dry line. Isn't that a warm front aloft? No. A dry line, it could be cool air, it could be cold air, it could be warm air. Warm air typically is moist air, but you can certainly have dry, warm air depending on where it actually is in the desert. It is a dry line. It's not talking about its temperature, it's talking about its moisture content. All it's saying is there is a definite line between humidity and non-humidity. It is like where the humidity stops and the dry air starts. That's what a dry line is. It is not always associated with temperature. Now, let's go through, it's 11:38, we're doing good time-wise. Let's go through our briefing here together and we'll see what we can learn. Okay, so first things first, we open up with our NOTAMs. Remember, 91-103 said we need to become familiar with our NOTAMs. Well, I've got a big one here at Tallahassee. Runway 1836 closed to aircraft, more than 41,000 pounds maximum takeoff weight. Okay, last I checked, that does not apply to 23 Mike Zulu. I aspire to fly something that big and heavy one day, but 23 Mike Zulu does not check that box. So that's that. Let's go. Okay, convective segments. Who knows the difference between, let's say, a convective segment, a segment, and an airmet? Does anybody want to take that one on? Because not always in a briefing will you get a convective segment. Not always in a briefing will you get a segment. And honestly, not always will you get an airmet. They're different things, actually. And there's a little bit of a delay from when I say something and when you all type it as well here. But I'm sure you're thinking of it. A convective segment is just that. It is weather It is a notice associated with convective activity. SIGMETs and AIRMETs are both advisories of poor conditions or conditions that may be detrimental to your flying. A convective SIGMET is one of those alerts that's related to convective activity, thunderstorm activity, or in this case, this cold front, this squall line that's passing through. A SIGMET is an additional advisory, but not always related to convective activity. You could have a SIGMET for volcanic ash, detrimental to turbine aircraft, terrible for piston aircraft, don't want to fly through it, but there's nothing convective about it, but it still applies to all aircraft. SIGMETs apply to all aircraft. When you are an airline pilot one day, or maybe you are already, you will pay attention to the SIGMETs. Now you pay attention to them too. AIRMETs apply to certain aircraft. SIGMETs apply to all aircraft. There's 3 types of AIRMETs. So AIRMETs are like a little bit of a step down from a SIGMET. Our AIRMETs, we have our AIRMET Tango for turbulence or severe winds. We have our AIRMET Sierra for low visibility IFR conditions and or mountain obscurations. And then we have our AIRMET Zulu for icing conditions as well. So Tango, turbulence, easy to remember. Sierra, I can't see, or Sierra Nevada, mountain obscurations, and AIRMET Zulu for icing. I was always taught Zulu starts with a Z, so does Zamboni. Zambonis groom the ice. Never seen a Zamboni in my life, but I hear that's what they do. Anyways, back to the iPad here. We have a convective SIGMET. I love that we can physically see it here because if not, they give us the actual definition of it as well with that. I love what Masood said. AIRMETs warn hazards primarily to small aircraft. You're exactly right. Can I tell you something? If there is a convective SIGMET on my route of flight, VFR, IFR, doesn't matter how I'm flying, doesn't matter what airplane I'm flying, if it's general aviation, airlines that matter, I'm not going. It is unnecessary to go. If I needed to make this flight from Tallahassee to Naples, we're not going. We're staying home, or y'all need to drive and figure out another way to get there. Let's move forward now, look at our synopsis. Our synopsis is showing our surface analysis chart, similar to what we just went through. Then we get into the METARs. Let me grab another sip of coffee here real quick. Sorry, it was a sip of coffee with a cough. All right, our METARs are now showing us again, this shows it pictorially, which is great. Good weather, bad weather, green being good, right? We then can look and see why are these other places like Ocala right now called marginal VFR. Let me translate Ocala for you. On the 4th, this is all happening right now, by the way, at 1551 Zulu. Winds 240 gust 23. No thank you. 10 statute miles broken at 3,000. Temperature 27, dew point 21. Altimeter 299 through 3. Remarks, they have an automatic precipitation discriminator at the field. That's what the AO2 means. RAE, rain, RAE ended at 1452. Then they get into sea level pressure and exact temperature here. Everybody's kind of most are pushing this marginal VFR bit as this front is passing. Let's see if there's any PIREPs that apply to me. Okay, along my route of flight. This guy's out over Deltona. Now, I'm always mindful to look and see what, and I haven't looked at this ahead of time, right? What kind of airplanes are giving me these PIREPs? For example, do you see this location? Yes, he's over Deltona, which isn't super close to my route, but do you see the type of aircraft? It's a BE-36. That's a Bonanza. That's an airplane I can kind of relate to, as opposed to, let's look at some other ones here. That's a BE-60. Will somebody look up a BE-60? I'm not familiar with what a BE-60 is. And you may just have to Google some of these things to see. Here's another one. We all know what this is. This is an SR-22 who said sky conditions, he's over Gainesville, broken from 2,000. The tops are at 4,000. This came out at 1520 Zulu, so not too terribly far away. So maybe could we get over this front if we had to? Let's see what else we can learn here. This is a PC12, a Pilatus, but it's over Titusville, and that doesn't always apply to us. PA44, that's a Seminole, all right? Again, that's out over the Deltona area. Let's see if we can find some ones that are kind of closer. Oh, here we go. This is a good one out of Tallahassee. Again, this is a Boeing 700 series, so this doesn't help us any here. It doesn't help us, and it does. It helps us because he or she said the bases are at 5,000 feet and Hayes, leaving Tallahassee. Why did I say a 700 series Boeing doesn't help us any? If that 700 series Boeing calls up and says, hey, there's light turbulence at 5,000 feet, I take note of that, because light turbulence at 5,000 feet to a Boeing, let's say a 737, is going to be moderate to heavy to extreme turbulence for a little 2-3 Mike Zulu. There's a bit of a weight differential there. The same amount of turbulence that he or she experiences as light is going to be real, real rough for me. By the way, you guys found out a BE60 is a Duke. A Duke or a Duchess, a Duke. That is a twin, a piston twin. It's like a piston King Air. Think of it that way. Okay, another Boeing 7 series. Just trying to find some others here. Here, a PA-28, down by Okeechobee, not super helpful. The front is not there yet either, but there's plenty of PIREPs that we could go through. And what am I looking for with these? I am looking for bases. I am looking for tops. That's what I'm looking for. And if you can't find them there, you can find them on your next slide, which is cloud coverage. Check this out with me. So let's look. Here's our front, our line that's passing through, and check this out, ground school members and MzeroA Nation. Overcast at 1,000, tops 8,000. Did we not just read, can we go back a second? Did we not just read can I go back to PIREPs? Did we not just read a PIREP around Gainesville from an SR-22 that said the same thing? Broken at 2,000, tops at 4,000. And what did we say? Maybe we can get over this front. Let's go back to our cloud coverage. Whoopsies. Back to our cloud coverage. Tops at 8, ceiling clear above, tops at 8, tops at 7, tops at 6. Here's some tops at 10 too. You know, depending on what kind of airplane you're flying, it's very possible that you could get over this. Now, a 172, listen, if the tops are at 8,000, that really means you need to be at like 10,000. And honestly, if there's a hint, like it says here, that the tops in some cases are as high as 10,000, you really need to be like at 12,000. I'm going to tell you your 172 probably isn't going to outclimb this thing. But if you're in an SR-22 turbo, if you're flying with twin Comanche pilot here, or you have oxygen, you have some options, you might be able to get over this thing and not have to experience any of that weather. Again, it depends on your airplane. But let me tell you something else as well that I know, and I'll put the iPad down for a second because I want to look you in the eyes when I say this here. It is 11:49. We're looking at this weather live here. The tops are at 8,000 feet right now. This is Florida. I know it is March, but the temperature, Magda, what is the temperature outside? Actually, I can tell you right now.
Oh, no, I will tell you.
It's, Magda,
28 degrees.
It is 28 degrees Celsius, says the Mallorcan. It is, AKA 83 degrees Fahrenheit. MzeroA Nation, if the ground is 83 degrees Fahrenheit, it's hot. I know it's March. I know it sounds crazy. If it is 83 degrees Fahrenheit here in Florida right now, and the tops are at 8,000 feet, and these are cumulonimbus clouds, what is very likely to happen? This is a 2.5 hour flight, maybe a 3 hour flight, and probably more than that, probably a 3 hour flight. We'll leave a fuel stop in 2-3 Mike Zulu. What's going to happen from that heat over the next 3 hours? In fact, I will give you the challenge that in 3-4 hours, I want you to come back to the same chart, and I want you to see, are those tops still at 8,000 feet, or did they grow? Because what do thunderstorms love? They love heat, right? You add heat to those thunderstorms, and how do thunderstorms grow? Thunderstorms don't grow this way. Thunderstorms grow this way, right? Yes, I know the tops are at 8,000 feet, but by the time you drive to that airplane, you pre-flight it, you've got about an hour flight till you even get to this front. Those things have grown 1,000 feet, and they're now above your service ceiling, and you are no longer climbing over that. You've got to think bigger than just what's currently happening. You have to always think, where do I fit in this ecosystem? We always joke that in the summertime, we don't plan flight lessons after 3 p.m. in Florida, because that's when our afternoon thunderstorms start. It just builds all day. Then by 3 p.m., it rains out, and then about 4 p.m., you start flying again. Just how it happens. You never book a spot at 3 p.m. because you'll get rained out almost every time. And that's just how it works. And that's not just Florida. That's most of places in the summertime. We have humidity and heat. So it's great that you may be thinking, I got an SR22 turbo. I'll fly over this thing. You may, but you better bring some oxygen with you, because you may be climbing much higher than you anticipated to get over this thing as well. All right? So think about that. Back to the iPad. All right. So now, in fact, we can look a little bit ahead here. Now, remember, that front did say it was going to die out a little bit, so let's look at what they forecast the 1800 Zulu to be. Look at this. They forecast some still at 8, some went up to 12,000. Like we're talking, again, this is just a forecast. It may happen, it may not. But let me show you this. Watch the picture. This is the 1500Z, this is the 1800Z. It's dying out. We already know that. We looked at the prog charts. It's dying out. Let's go 2100Z. It's dying out, and yet, right, we still got some 10,000 foot tops. We still got some 6,000 foot tops. It's dying out, but man, there's still some big tops there to contend with. Will you watch this storm with me today? Watch this front work through Florida. Yes, it's dying out, but that doesn't mean it's still not going to stop growing vertically. You may not make it over this storm. All right, let's continue through with our briefing, and I promise I'm almost done here. All right, what is the one sign you know you've crossed over a front? A change, well, not one, there's two signs. A change in wind direction, a change in temperature. Look at where the wind is coming from in Florida. Look at where the wind is coming from in northern Alabama and Mississippi, right? And Arkansas and Louisiana, for that matter. The exact opposite. Literally, the wind's coming from the east in one direction, coming from the west in the other, and these places aren't that far from each other. But what is the wind doing in between? It's shifting around. See how the wind is slowly moving its way around. Right now, the wind in Florida is coming off the Gulf. But as this front comes through, it shifts the wind around 180 degrees compared to what the front has not gone through yet. Now, let me tell you something. The wind does not go just like that. The wind does not just shift just like that. It shears. It doesn't just go from here to 180 degrees the opposite direction. It shears. It jumps 30, 40 degrees, then shears back. Behind a front will be some of the nastiest weather you will ever contend with. Leading edge of the front, nasty weather. Back end of the front, it's clear and pretty, but some of the nastiest turbulence is what I meant to say, some of the nastiest conditions related to that you will deal with. That's what you need to be mindful of. So right now, where are my Georgians, my Alabamians, my Mississippians, is that what you are called? I bet it is real Arkansans, that sounds better. I don't know what everybody's called. I bet it is really, really windy where you're at right now, probably. The winds are probably just ripping right through there. Let's jump ahead. We'll look at TAFs. I know we've made like a no-go decision at this point, but you can look at the Gainesville TAF right here, temporarily from 1700 to 2100 Zulu, 3 statute miles, heavy showers and rain, mist, broken 1200, overcast 2000, right? That is not going to be suitable conditions to be flying through coming up this area. Does that make sense for everybody? I'll leave us with that. Obviously, we get into more NOTAMs and everything else here. It's a no-go today. If I was really doing this flight from Tallahassee down to Naples, I'm not going through a front. It is just nasty weather conditions. It's something no general aviation pilot, especially in a 172, should be flying through. We have no business going through that. So with that, if you have any questions, anything you want me to go back over, anything you want to see, go ahead and ask. Now is your time to ask. Any questions are absolutely fair game. More than happy to answer those now. One last little thing, and I only have it on my closing slides where we'll have to show it, Magda. We are entering into a flight planning series this March. Before you go, I got some big stuff to say. Don't hop off this just yet. We're giving away an iPad. Let me show you how to win it. This is our flight planning series for the entire month of March. All our videos. By the way, podcasts are back. Ground school members, all our ground school member only webinars are all related to flight planning. And we are giving away an iPad. So how you enter to win the iPad, Magda will show it on the screen. Head over to MzeroAcontest.com. MzeroAcontest.com to enter. It is going to ask for your name. It's going to ask for your shipping information because I got to know where to send it, right? I mean, if you want to be a winner, you got to put the right information in there. And we are going to pick a winner. And we're going to do that at the end of this month. So MzeroAcontest.com. We're going to do a big live stream at the end of this month. We'll give away the iPad live and we'll just share some more wisdom similar to how we did today as well. So MzeroAcontest.com. If you need a new iPad or want a new iPad, it'll be a mini. I'm partial to the mini size-wise for an iPad. It's just, in general aviation airplanes, it just works the best. It's funny, I work off the big Pro. Magda and I share a big iPad Pro, the giant one, and we love it for travel and emails and everything else. But I fly with an iPad mini. It just works so much better in these small little flight decks, as they're now called, that we fly in. So a new iPad mini, MzeroAcontest.com. This is the flight plan series. We're going to dive into it. So, questions, comments, concerns. Masood, Jason, would like to know your decision if that was a warm front. Okay, let's talk about this. What are the characteristics first of a cold front? A cold front, I have my whiteboard here, Magda. Do we have markers? Yeah, I have markers here and everything. Let me draw you something real quick. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to draw it on the table. You think that's going to work, Magda? Or should I go back? Yeah, is that good? All right, let me show you something. Let's learn our characteristics here first. Let me draw the ground. Now, art is really my thing. Just so you know, I'm quite the artist. Right, Magda? All right. How does a cold front work? A cold front, I was being sarcastic, by the way. A cold front works like a wedge. This is the cold front. It's heading this direction. And it literally works like a wedge. The problem is here, if this is Florida, I have all this is warm, moist air hanging out here. If a cold front comes through, and it's literally shaped like this, okay? With this wedge here, what are the 3 ingredients I need for a thunderstorm? Okay, I need moisture, check. I've got it here. I need instability or a temperature inversion. I've got it right here with warm, meet and cold. That creates instability or a temperature inversion as well. And then I need an uplifting action. Well, this wedge works like an escalator for this warm, moist air, and it takes it and literally wedges it all aloft. So what happens when I have warm, moist air, I have my instability via a temperature inversion, I'm sending it all aloft, I get nasty storms. This is why you get nasty storms ahead of a cold front, because it creates this wedge. That's why you get those storms. So that's a characteristic of a cold front. Now, you need to have that warm, moist air ahead, or that moist air ahead. By the way, a cold front doesn't always mean like it's freezing cold. It just means this air is colder than the air it's overtaking. By the way, this could be snow, depending on how cold this is. This could be any number of things. Hunter said these are sad clouds. Are they sad? No, no, no. It's a happy thunderstorm. Okay, he's happy to be raining. He's not happy we're not flying, but anyways, that's how a cold front actually works. Now, on the contrary, Magda, is my eraser here or did we take it home?
Yes.
I don't know where my eraser is. Oh, I got paper here. On the contrary, how does a warm front work? Well, a warm front works this way. I'm doing all this one-handed here. Bradley says, channel your inner Bob Ross. It's a happy tree. Okay, I'm losing caps and stuff here. A warm front, to the contrary, works the opposite. A warm front doesn't act like a wedge. A warm front, remember, warm air tends to rise. So a warm front, it's funny, a warm front literally looks like the semicircle that it's coming to if a warm front is heading this direction, right? A warm front is going to travel over the cooler air here. And so what happens in this case where instead the moisture is up here in the warm front and we're passing over the cooler air? What happens in this case, since the temperature inversion is a little bit lower, down here is where the temperature and the dew point meet as this warm air passes over. So what do we typically get with a warm front passing by? We get these low stratus clouds ahead, it's going to go into the tree, ahead of the warm front. They're not going to rain. They're not going to produce a lot of moisture. The moisture is up here. It's available if it needs to be. But what you do is when the warm and the cool air meet, that's where our temperature and dew point meet, and you'll create stratiform clouds at a lower level during the entire warm front. I will now be auctioning off this artwork, that's my signature, to the highest bidder. Let's start the bidding at $1 million, because I just saw a CJ1 on controller, and they want $2 million for it, and if I get $1 million, I'll be halfway there. So Bradley, you in? All right, let me put this away real quick. We'll head over to MzeroA contest. You can win that, or you could just put down the $1 million right now, and I will send you the wiring instructions for that. It is one-of-a-kind artwork, one of a kind. Let me close all my markers before I get markers on my white hoodie, because that is likely to happen. Holly said, I bid 172. That does get me $172 closer to the CJ1. So thank you for that. But Masado, I hope that helped. I hope that that artwork helped. Maybe if somebody's into blockchain, you could help me turn that into an NFT. It's pretty good. Okay, MzeroAcontest.com to win an iPad. We're going to give it away via live stream at the end of this month. Let's go find some more questions, some more comments. Luis asked earlier, why do I have 147 notifications? Let's find out. It's 147 download. I download the entire United States. So I don't know why. So there's always, I just like to look at everyone's sectional chart. I want to have everything. What if I end up, Bradley invites me up to Wisconsin, I need to have the current plates. You just never know where you're going to be invited. No, Magda and I have done so many flights like from California to here and Oshkosh, and I just never turn off the downloads for all the states. So I download the entire United States all the time. So anyways, that's happened. What is Magda's favorite Spanish coffee? Well, wow, I don't know if it'd be actual Spanish coffee. Maybe, yeah, there is Puerto Rican coffee that she loves from a place called Cafe Calao that we discovered when we were in Puerto Rico from a little family. So that's that. But as far as Hispaniola, mainland Spain.
Spain doesn't have good coffee, just good oil.
She said Spain has good oil, not good coffee. Before I met Magda, I thought olive oil was for like greasing your pan before you made scrambled eggs. Anybody with me? She puts it on salads and like bread, and she's fancy. You know, I thought olive oil was just for greasing up a pan so your eggs don't stick, but the things you learn, the things you learn. His wife is Puerto Rican. Cafe Kalau, it's called. Okay, when are we taking the kids ice skating so you can finally see a famous Zamboni? They do those fake ice skating rinks down here where they put like the PVC down and the kids pretend they're skiing. So, I mean, that's that. Mark said, do we need more Italian coffee? You know what happened, Mark? My Mallorcan in-laws came to town and they consumed all the Italian coffee and snacks that you sent. I got like 2 or 3 cups of it. They devoured it. And they're closer to Italy than I am. It was crazy. So anyways, Eric said Taylor's Puerto Rican. Did you know that, Magda? I didn't know Taylor was Puerto Rican. Well, when she goes to visit her family, tell her to send us some coffee. All right, all you Mediterraneans with your oil. All right, apparently there's a Tampa Bay Lightning game today. Go Lightning. Score a lot of goals. You can tell sports are really my thing. All right, Pete's getting ready for the RV7 trip. That's gonna be fun. Jonathan, come up to Michigan, plenty of winter snow. Yep, snow's not my thing. Mag and I went skiing, and we spent a lot of time with coffee by the fire. It's like ski a run, go warm up, ski a run. Next time we go skiing, someone needs to send us to a ski resort with those heated gondolas, because these open air chairlifts, they need some heated seats or something, because it's just too cold. It's just too cold. Jeff Humphrey invited us to Montana, Magda, so we can use those downloads. I don't know if I've ever been to Montana. Let's see. On YouTube, past my commercial airplane single engine land, thanks to your videos, working on CFI. Any supporting tips? Yes, my friend. Yes, I do. First off, get the FOI done and out of the way. We have a great online ground school for FOI. Just ask Hunter how great it is. She used it. If you want to try it out, go to MzeroAtrial.com, which my lovely wife will make appear magically right there. MzeroAtrial.com to check a few lessons there as well. Do check that out, my friend. Remember, I give this advice to every new CFI. Make your own lesson plans. Yes, there are lesson plans out there for sale that you can just buy, like these prepackaged little things, but let me tell you something. You will do yourself a disservice if you choose to do that. Get out there and make your own lesson plans, please. Oh, Magda just gave me another note in my ear, my producer here. Joseph asked, am I ready for Sun and Fun? Yes. Now, we also have, how many, Magda? We are bringing 51 of these Inflight coffee mugs, which share the phrase, aviate, navigate, caffeinate. In that order, we will be selling these for $10 at Sun and Fun. This is we gave these away as some gifts to some of our best customers many years ago. This is your opportunity to get a limited, I'll sign the mug. Not inside, outside. Just don't put it in the dishwasher. This is your chance to get that mug. We will be at, someone was asking, will we be there on Thursday? I am chained to the booth. Hangar D, booth 92, from Tuesday to Sunday. I'm only given 1 bathroom break and 1 15-minute lunch break per day. Other than that, I'm there. Okay, I will not leave. Dr. Bill said his coffee is in one right now, okay? So, mine too. Jose wants to know if it includes a spoon. Yes, I will get a spoon from our kitchen. Jason Schappert used, Gavin and Ella Schappert used too probably, and deliver it. So they're clean, don't worry, don't worry. All right, other questions. Hunter said she'll pay 11 if she can have one now. Until Elon Musk invents teleporting, once he works on the Hyperloop, it's gonna take a while for it to get there. Drone drop. Ooh, Amazon drone delivery is gonna happen. I know there's some doubters, but I think it's gonna happen. There's no doubt. All right, yeah, maybe next year we'll do spoons. Eric Pittman's really handy. He could like hand whittle some spoons for everybody. But no banana is right, Ranji. And if you don't know the banana joke, you're just gonna have to watch some old episodes. Things happen. All right. Will there be an In-Flight Coffee live from Sun and Fun? Let me check the calendar. Maybe. Let's see. It's the first. That's right. Wow, Magda. So April 1st is April Fool's Day, and also we have a very no, never mind. Magda said zip it. Maybe. That's all I can say. Maybe. More to be announced. Sometimes I talk too much and I get in trouble. Thanks a lot, Eric. You got me in trouble for talking too much. Jason Germain, do you have a CFI referral system set up? Almost. We had one previously. It's still currently running. We are revamping it. By revamping it, we're 6 months out from making it how it needs to be. So just patiently wait 6 months, and yes, it will be there. Rana says, student pilot on cross-country plane in Prague, Czech phase. How to handle descending to different altitudes mid-flight with changes in heading to comply with VFR altitudes and navlog and planning. Okay. So the question is, I'm changing headings, so thus I need to change altitudes. You put this, file, how do I file this in my flight plan? File for your highest altitude. On your flight following, when you change headings, all you do is alert ATC. Hey, ATC, 23 Mike Zulu, or Jack's approach, sorry, 23 Mike Zulu. I'm turning left towards my destination now. Since I'm heading to the east now, I'm going to change to my appropriate easterly altitude of this altitude. Just let them know you're doing it. And they're probably going to say, wow, thank you for that. No one ever does that. Most people just fly willy-nilly and stay at the same altitude with that one. So let ATC know. And on your flight plan form, file for the highest altitude, which is usually your final altitude. Jim Penninger, good to see you, my friend. Am I in need for a CFO? I'm always in need for good consultation. That's what it really comes down to. Good to see you, by the way, my friend. All right. Any other questions? Any other comments? Again, MzeroAcontest.com is where to go to get the to enter to win the iPad. And then from there, we're going to be doing a great live stream at the end of the month. We will be at Sun and Fun as well. Let's see. Oh, wow. Pub subs. But yeah, Eric Pittman has to come to Sun and Fun because it's Public's World Headquarters. He's not really coming for us. He's going to Public's World Headquarters. Rebecca asked in the chat, any check ride tips for an instrument student? Yes. Stand by one. First off, Rebecca, if you don't have the book, and I'm not here to sell you, but if you don't have it, Pass Your Instrument Pilot Check Ride, I recommend as an audio book. You're going to be listening to me for 2.5 hours, but it'll be worth it. Grab the book. For your instrument check ride, Rebecca, this has got the oral portion, the ground portion covered for you. But the flying portion wise, Rebecca, do you have an autopilot in your airplane? If so, when's the last time you flew a fully coupled instrument approach? Fully autopilot approach, that means. Because according to the ACS, you're allowed to, one of the 3 required approaches is allowed to be autopilot coupled. You might as well take your freebie. That's a freebie. You program it right, it's a freebie. Take it, know how to use it. One of your 3 approaches will be coupled if you have an autopilot. One of the 3 will also be a partial panel approach. How are you going to fail your G1000? How are you going to show that? When's the last time you did a partial panel approach? When's the last time you did a partial panel VOR alpha approach? Like, not a fun approach to do. When's the last time you did a DME arc, published or unpublished? Like, those are the things I want you to go back to and really think about with that one. So, Dr. Bill was asking about altitudes. Are multiple entries allowed? No, typically you... oh, the contest. I thought you were talking about the altitude. No, just enter once. Por favor. That means please in Spanish. It's that, yeah, all it's going to do, our database is smart. It's going to attach the other one to you. It tracks IPs and all that stuff. It's going to just attach it to you. It's not going to be advantageous to do that. Mason asked, am I going to the Gator Fly-In? No, I will not be at the Gator Fly-In just because that's the weekend before Sun and Fun, and we're going to be gearing up, getting ready for Sun and Fun. Otherwise, I would be there, but it's just challenging. They always do it that week before Sun and Fun, and I get why, but we've got so much to set up and pack and get ready, as you can imagine. Okay, person asked, I have a flight plan exam in a few days. Can you confirm that final reserve fuel is calculated for 45 minutes of hold-in fuel from cruise flow, if anyone can answer it? So you're saying the 45 minutes, yes. So how does the regulation read? I need enough fuel to fly to my destination, fly the traffic pattern, don't forget that, and then 45 minutes at a normal cruise speed. If we're talking IFR, right, it's shoot the approach, normal cruise speed, shoot that approach too. Don't forget the vectoring and all that gets associated with that, just so you know. So, all right. Let's see, other questions, other comments here. Anything, happy to take those. Are there charts that show wind shear microbursts other than PIREPs? Charts that show wind shear or microburst. You're gonna have to look for like your air met tangos for that. Air met tangos are not just turbulence. Air met tangos are strong winds over 35 knots as well, so keep that in mind. You also have to know what conditions are ripe for that as well to form. Someone asked, what are we doing to see me at Sun and Fun? Come into Hangar D, booth 92. Hangar D, booth 92, that's where I'll be. Look for the MzeroA booth. You can't miss us. We're in Hangar D. I'll be standing there. Come say hi, come take a picture, and we will do that. So that'll be fun. Other questions? Hunter said, it's been a while, but for a PIREP, just call ATC. Yes, nowadays, Hunter, you can just call ATC. Excuse me one second. I'm perfectly fine. Yes, nowadays you can just call ATC. All right, let's grab one more question. One more question. I love what Joseph said. Grab the ACS, go through it. You have to here. Let's see. Kathy MacArthur, great to see you. On Chuck's Facebook, great to see you. All right, I did Hunter's one. Let's see. Ronick asked, what's the difference between a convective outlook and a sigmet? A convective outlook is showing you, right, what is expected to happen. This is the expected convective activity. It is a forecast for thunderstorms. A sigmet, well, a convective sigmet, that'll be related to your convective outlook, is happening now. There is a convective sigmet happening in Florida right now. I imagine yesterday there was a convective outlook, which has now become a convective sigmet because that forecast has come to life and is in fruition. It is real. Does that make sense with that one? So with that, I'm going to wrap up here because I went 17 minutes longer than I was supposed to. That happens. That happens sometimes. I do go back and read every question, every comment, so I apologize if I missed some. If not, there's more live streams. You can always comment on our YouTube videos as well. Reach out to the support team with any questions. Don't forget MzeroAcontest.com as well. A chance to win that iPad mini will be given away at the end of this month. All this month is flight planning. Just looking for ways to make us safer, smarter pilots. So listen, thank you so much. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Saturday to find time and ways to better yourselves as a pilot. I look forward to seeing so many of you the end of this month, not only for the live stream, but to see you in person at Sun and Fun as well. Have a blessed, abundant, outstanding rest of your day, and most importantly, remember, the good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see ya.